Tonight, I have 3 terrifying tales that will make you rethink every pet-sitting job you've ever taken. These stories aren't just scary, they're the kind that creep into your mind long after the lights go out. If you think you're safe in someone else's home, think again. Stay, if you dare. Story number 1. By Harry. You ever say yes to something so stupid that halfway through, you're just sitting there thinking, why didn't I see this coming? Yeah, that was me. It all started when a friend of mine, Lisa, hooked me up with this woman named Claudia. She lived in this tiny village in Germany called Mittenwald. Picturesque place like something out of a travel blog. Quaint cottages, cobblestone streets, surrounded by dense, dark woods. Claudia was a violinist, eccentric as hell, but cool enough. She needed someone to watch her German shepherd, Blitz, while she went on tour in Berlin. Blitz is my everything, she told me, holding his face like a proud mom. Take care of him like your life depends on it. Weird thing to say, right? But I needed the cash, and honestly, a few quiet days in the Alps sounded pretty nice. It wasn't. The first day was uneventful. Blitz was a good dog, maybe a little too good, almost like he was always on edge. He had this habit of sitting by the back door, staring out at the woods. Not barking, not whining, just staring. It creeped me out more than I wanted to admit. Come on, buddy, I said, tossing him a ball. You're freaking me out. But he didn't care about the ball. His eyes stayed glued to the tree line, unblinking. I shook it off and decided to watch TV, hoping some background noise would make the house feel less off. That night, things started to get weird. I was lying in bed, half asleep, when I heard it. A faint tapping sound like someone drumming their fingers against the glass. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. But then Blitz started growling, low and deep, like a warning. I sat up, heart pounding. What's wrong, boy? The tapping got louder. I grabbed my phone and crept downstairs, Blitz by my side. The sound was coming from the back door. My hands were shaking as I flipped on the porch light and peered out the window. Nothing. Just the yard, the woods, and the faint rustle of leaves in the wind. But when I looked closer, I saw them. 3 long, jagged scratches on the glass. They hadn't been there earlier. I locked the door, double-checked the windows, and told myself it was probably just an animal. A fox, maybe, or a raccoon. Nothing to lose sleep over. I was wrong. Around 2 a.m., Blitz woke me up again, this time barking like his life depended on it. I shot out of bed, adrenaline pumping, and ran downstairs. The back door was wide open. Now, I know what you're thinking. I must have forgotten to lock it. But I didn't. I know I didn't. Hello, I called out, my voice shaking. Is someone there? No answer, just the sound of the wind. Blitz stood in the doorway, teeth bared, growling at something I couldn't see. I slammed the door shut, locked it again, and dragged a chair in front of it. I barely slept the rest of the night. Every little noise made my skin crawl. The next day, I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe it was an animal, or maybe I'd been careless. Either way, I wasn't going to let some stupid scratches freak me out. That afternoon, I was in the kitchen feeding Blitz when I heard it. Footsteps. Not creaks, not random noises. Actual deliberate footsteps coming from upstairs. My stomach dropped. Claudia, I called out, even though I knew it couldn't be her. Nothing. Blitz took off, bolting up the stairs like a rocket. I grabbed a fire poker from the hearth and followed him, every muscle in my body screaming at me to turn around and leave. The footsteps stopped as soon as I reached the top of the stairs. The hallway was empty. Blitz was in the guest bedroom, growling at the closet. Don't do this to me, boy, I whispered, my voice barely audible. I crept into the room, heart pounding, and yanked the closet door open, ready to swing the poker. Nothing. just clothes and boxes. But then I saw them, bare footprints in the dust on the closet floor. I packed my stuff, grabbed Blitz, and got the hell out of there. Claudia called me that evening asking why I'd left early. When I told her what happened, she didn't sound surprised. "They don't usually bother people," she said casually. "You must have upset them." Them. I didn't ask who or what she meant. I didn't want to know. To this day, I can't hear a dog growl or a door creak without feeling that same cold dread crawl up my spine. Blitz was the only reason I got out of that house, and I'll never forget the way he stared into those woods like he knew exactly what was out there. So, yeah. If anyone ever asks you to pet sit in a remote village, just say no. Some things aren't worth the money. Story number 2. By Benjamin. Okay, first off, I'm not a cat person. I don't hate them or anything, but they give me this vibe, you know? Like they're watching you, judging every stupid thing you do, and somehow knowing things you don't. But Luna was different. She wasn't just a cat. She was something else. It started when I agreed to house sit for this artsy couple, Claire and Henry, in Salem, Massachusetts. You know, the witch town. The house? A massive, creaky Victorian that looked like it came with its own set of ghosts. They were going on some yoga retreat in Vermont and needed someone to watch their cat, Luna. "She's pretty self-sufficient," Claire said as she handed me the keys. "Feed her twice a day, clean the litter box, and—" She paused, glancing at Henry. "And what?" I asked. Henry looked at me, dead serious. "Don't let her out of the house, no matter what." I laughed, thinking they were being overprotective. "Don't worry, I'll keep her safe." Claire smiled faintly, but her eyes didn't. "It's not about keeping her safe." Day 1 was fine. Luna was a typical cat, aloof, a little sassy, and only interested in me when I had food. The house, though, that was a whole other story. The floors creaked even when I wasn't moving, and every so often I'd swear I heard something scuttling in the walls. Rats, probably. At least, that's what I told myself. That night I was watching TV in the living room when I noticed Luna sitting on the windowsill. She wasn't curled up or napping. She was staring. Her eyes were locked on something outside, unblinking, her tail flicking back and forth. "What is it, girl?" I asked, walking over to her. She didn't even look at me, just kept staring at the dark street outside. I glanced out the window but didn't see anything, just the lamppost and some flickering shadows. "Creepy little thing," I muttered, heading to bed. I woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of scratching. It was faint at first, like nails on wood. I tried to ignore it, thinking maybe it was just Luna messing around, but then it got louder. Scrape, scrape, scrape. I sat up, my heart thudding in my chest. "Luna?" No response. I grabbed my phone for light and crept downstairs. The scratching was coming from the front door. Luna was sitting there, perfectly still, staring at it like she was waiting for someone. "Hey," I whispered, "what are you doing?" She let out this low, rumbling growl, her green eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. My mouth went dry. Cats don't growl like that. Not unless something's wrong. I looked at the door, half expecting to see claw marks or something, but it was fine. Still locked, still closed. "You're freaking me out, girl," I said, backing away. Luna didn't move. She just kept staring, her growl growing softer but more menacing. I swear it felt like she wasn't looking at the door but through it. The next day, I tried to shake it off. Cats are weird, right? They do weird stuff all the time. But when I was cleaning the litter box, I heard something upstairs. Thump. I froze. It wasn't a creak or a random house noise. It was a solid, deliberate sound, like something or someone moving around. "Hello?" I called out, even though I knew nobody was there. Luna darted past me, racing up the stairs like she was on a mission. "Hey, wait!" I shouted, chasing after her. She stopped outside the master bedroom, her body low to the ground, her ears pinned back. She was growling again, her eyes fixed on the door. I pushed it open slowly, every nerve in my body screaming at me to turn around and leave. The room was empty, at least it looked empty. Luna padded inside, her head low, and stopped in front of the closet. "Oh, come on," I muttered. "Not this again." She sat there, growling at the closet door like something was inside. "Nope," I whispered. "Not doing this." But I couldn't just leave it. I grabbed a broom from the hallway and poked the closet door open, ready for a rat or maybe some old junk to come tumbling out. Nothing. Just clothes, a few boxes, and dust. But then I saw them. Footprints. Bare human footprints in the dust on the closet floor. By the third night, I was barely holding it together. Luna was acting stranger than ever, constantly pacing, staring at the windows, growling at nothing. Around 2 a.m., I heard it again. The scratching. This time, it wasn't at the door. It was at the window. I grabbed a flashlight and crept into the living room. Luna was there, perched on the back of the couch, her eyes locked on the window. The scratching stopped as soon as I shone the light. I pulled the curtain back slowly and my stomach dropped. There were handprints on the outside of the glass. Not smudges, not streaks. Perfectly clear handprints like someone had pressed their palms against the window and dragged them down. I stumbled back, my pulse hammering in my ears. Luna jumped down from the couch and sat by the window, her tail flicking. She looked up at me, and for a split second, I swear her pupils were wrong. Too big, too round. "You saw it, didn't you?" I nearly jumped out of my skin. The voice wasn't mine. It wasn't Claire's. It came from the room. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice cracking. No answer. Just Luna staring at me, her green eyes impossibly wide. When Claire and Henry came back the next day, I was already packed and ready to go. I handed them the keys without a word, but as I turned to leave, Claire stopped me. "She didn't get out, did she?" I shook my head. "No." Claire let out a sigh of relief. "Good. If she had." She trailed off, glancing at Henry. I didn't wait for her to finish. I didn't want to know. I drove straight home, vowing never to pet sit again. But sometimes, late at night, I swear I can feel a pair of eyes watching me. And when I turn around, there's nothing there. Story number 3. By Scarlett. Look, I'm not proud of this, but I was desperate for cash. Rent was overdue, and my phone bill was hanging by a thread. So when my co-worker, David, offered me a gig watching his dog for the weekend, I didn't ask questions. "Easy money," he said. "Just keep Max fed and let him out a couple of times." Simple enough, right? Wrong. David's house was this old, run-down place in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by thick woods. The kind of house that feels like it's hiding secrets in every corner. When I pulled up Friday evening, the sun was just setting, casting long shadows that made the whole place look haunted. "Thanks for doing this," David said, handing me the keys. He looked nervous. "Sure thing," I replied, trying to ignore the vibe. "Where's Max?" "He's in the basement," David said quickly, not meeting my eyes. "The basement?" I raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "He prefers it down there," David muttered. "Just make sure you keep the door closed. Always, even if he whines." Now, any normal person would have asked more questions, but like I said, I needed the cash. "Got it," I said, giving him a thumbs up. David nodded, hesitated for a moment, and then got in his car. The house smelled faintly of damp wood and old carpet, but it wasn't as bad as I expected. I found the basement door at the end of the hallway. It was thick, heavy, and reinforced with an old, rusted bolt. "Max?" I called out, unlocking the door. A deep growl answered me from the darkness below. "Okay, buddy. Chill," I said, flipping on the basement light. The stairs creaked as I made my way down, and the growling got louder. When I reached the bottom, I finally saw him. Max was huge, easily the biggest German shepherd I'd ever seen. His fur was thick and dark, and his eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, like twin embers. He was pacing, his nails clicking against the concrete floor, his growl rumbling low and steady. "Hey, boy," I said, holding out my hand. "It's okay. I'm your new friend." Max stopped pacing and stared at me. His growl faded, replaced by a strange, heavy breathing sound that made my stomach tighten. "Good boy," I whispered, stepping closer. His food bowl was empty, so I filled it and left some water. The whole time, Max didn't take his eyes off me. That night, I heard it. I was lying on the couch, scrolling through my phone, when I heard scratching. Not the faint kind, like a cat, but deep, heavy scrapes like claws dragging across wood. It was coming from the basement door. "Max!" I called out, sitting up. The scratching stopped. I walked to the door, my heart racing. "You okay down there, boy?" No answer, just silence. I reached for the handle but froze when I heard it, a low, guttural growl followed by a voice. "Let me out." I stumbled back, my breath caught in my throat. It sounded human but distorted, like it was coming from underwater. "Max," I whispered. "Let me out." I bolted the door and backed away, my hands shaking. The next morning, I tried convincing myself I'd imagined it. Sleep deprivation, maybe. Too much caffeine. When I opened the basement door to feed Max, he was sitting at the bottom of the stairs, staring up at me. His eyes were darker now, almost black, and his breathing sounded off, like it was coming from deep inside his chest. "You good, boy?" I asked nervously, setting the bowl on the top step. Max didn't move. That night, things escalated. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of heavy footsteps. They weren't coming from upstairs or the hallway. They were coming from the basement. I grabbed a flashlight and crept to the door. "Max?" The footsteps stopped. I leaned closer, pressing my ear to the door. For a moment, there was nothing. And then I heard it again. "Let me out." It wasn't a growl this time. It was clear, deliberate, and chillingly human. I backed away, my hands trembling. "Stop it!" I yelled, more out of fear than anger. The voice answered louder this time. "Let me out." The door rattled, the bolt shaking in its place. I stumbled back, tripping over the coffee table. The banging stopped. By the time morning came, I was done. I called David, demanding he come home early. "Is Max okay?" he asked, his voice tight. "What the hell is wrong with your dog?" I snapped. David didn't answer. When he finally showed up, he looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Did you open the door?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "No," I said, "but he talked, David. What the hell is going on?" David's face went pale. "It's not Max." I stared at him, my stomach sinking. "What do you mean?" He looked at the basement door, his hands trembling. "Max died 3 months ago." Before I could respond, something slammed against the door, shaking the frame. "Let me out," the voice roared, louder and more inhuman than ever. I grabbed my stuff and ran. To this day, I don't know what was in that basement, and I don't want to know. You made it through the stories, but did you feel that cold breath on your neck? Pet sitting should be easy, but as you've just heard, some homes come with secrets, and some pets have dark, unnatural loyalties. If these stories have left you looking over your shoulder, hit subscribe and join me again for more horrors you'll wish you could forget. But don't wait too long. Who knows what's watching you right now? Until next time, stay vigilant and stay afraid.